Geeks. No one talks Trek like we do.
Hello and welcome back to We Are Starfleet, discussing Season 4 of Strange New Worlds here on the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. I'm your captain for today's show, Ian Buckley, and today we're discussing the 5th episode of Season 4, Level 5 Transporter Accident. Helping me to pull the stuffing out of this episode is my co-host, Ashley Thomas. How are you, Ash?
Hey, good, buddy. How you doing, Ian?
I'm doing well. Excited to talk about Star Trek as always. This episode and its gimmick, for lack of a better word. And to do that, we are joined by a very special guest, Geoff Owen. Welcome back to the show, Geoff.
Thank you for having me back. I can't wait to talk about this one. This is a fun one, I think.
Yeah. It's always a sincere pleasure to talk to you both, and I'm so glad we get to do it. But before we do, I want to take a moment to highlight the presenting sponsor for the Trek Geeks network of shows, Fansets. Fansets produces collectible pins and magnets made by fans for fans. I just got myself a pair of insignia pins, one from Wrath of Khan, the other from DS9, and they have so much more, over 600 products in their Star Trek collection alone. Check them out at fansets.com and use special promo code TrekGeeks, all capital letters, to get 10% off at checkout. Spend $30 or more and get free U.S. shipping. On with the show. All right, guys. So let's just briefly touch on the plot synopsis for this week's episode. This week's episode begins as Spock is still grappling with the emotional fallout of episode 2, the end of his situationship with La'an, and a rededication, it seems, to the study of logic. This journey seems to get derailed when Scotty causes a level 5 transporter accident. Whoopsie, wherein the entire crew, except for Spock, is turned into puppets. Hijinks ensue, or do they? This episode was written by Henry Alonzo Myers and Dana Horgan and directed by Jordan Canning. All right, guys, what were your overall thoughts on episode 5 of season 4?
Guess first. Go ahead, Geoff.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? I didn't know what to expect because obviously we'd seen the teaser for this episode way back last year when season 3 dropped. And suddenly we saw this clip of Captain Pike as a puppet, and that it had mixed opinions, let's say, and I think people were a bit sort of apprehensive about where we were going, particularly with where season 3 stood at the time. However, I had so much fun with this episode. I don't know if it's up to the highs of some of season 2's great novelty ones, but it's certainly one I had a lot of fun with. I was smiling and grinning pretty much all the way through this episode.
How about you, Ash?
This has been an episode that has grown on me with every watch. Like the first watch, I was like, all right, that was fun. The second time I watched it, I was like, okay, wait a minute. I'm really like taking notice about kind of the tropes they're playing into with puppet comedy and things like that. And then watching it again before we recorded this morning, I'm just like, actually, no, this is really brilliant. So I have had a great time with this episode. If you've only watched it once, folks, it does get richer, I think, on multiple watches. So give it another shot if you've only seen it one time. I had a really great time with it. So I'm really excited talking with you both about it today.
Yeah, I'm really glad you both enjoyed it a lot. I hope that a lot of people do. I was unfortunately a bit more mixed on it, and I actually had the opposite experience with you, Ash. The first time I saw it, I thought, that was a little lightweight fun. And then each subsequent time, and we'll get into why, I think you guys can probably guess, I felt like it had less and less of an impact on me, unfortunately. Okay. But we'll get into it. I thought the puppet material was very fun. Like, if we're going to compliment sandwich this discussion, I want to lead with the main attraction, the like reason I tuned in to this week's episode, so to speak, was the Henson Workshop's creation, this of the entire, at least main cast as puppets, except for Ethan Peck. Poor guy. I do wonder if they sort of made him one just for fun, because he otherwise he's like entirely left out of the fun of seeing the entire cast rendered as puppets, which I think they do very effectively. I had some trouble with some of the other bigger picture execution of the show, and a lot of like little nitpicks, especially as I rewatched it, which we'll get into. But I hope people broadly enjoy the show. I know I was I felt like the minority of people who was pretty excited when they teased this episode last year about the cast being puppets. I think maybe there was some sense of, is the show over relying on gimmicks? We've had a musical episode, we had the animated crossover, we've had a lot of different playing around with theme and tone from episode to episode. I'm all for it to an extent. I always want it to be executed at the highest possible level, of course. And I felt ultimately a little bit left down by this episode, but not by the puppetry, if that distinction makes sense.
Fair. Yeah. So by the time this recording drops, I hopefully will have up on fangirlish.com some interviews I got to do with some of the cast from Strange New Worlds. Got to do sit in on some roundtable interviews, and one question that was asked is, y'all, did you get to keep your puppets? And the answer was no. Nobody got to keep their puppets, which is very sad. I'm telling you,
that's why I hope they're in the workshop. I'm going to take that tour, and I hope they're on it.
Yeah, I hope they are too. So, and just to be clear, folks, we're not allowed to call them the M word, but they were made by Jim Henson Creaser Shop. So, there you are.
I mean, that's impressive, to be honest, that they've got that team on this show. So,
I wondered if they were going to get them in on the action with this. Like, surely, come on. Because, long before, I think even after season 1, there is an artist, and I'm going to look him up because I'm blanking on this gentleman's name. But I've talked about him on the show before, but he created a Lieutenant Ortega's puppet because there is a there is a certain theory of how humans work, and related to the Muppets, and that there are Muppets that are quote unquote chaos Muppets, like Gonzo. And so this guy was saying that Lieutenant Ortega's was a chaos Muppet, was describing her as that. Long before this episode was ever in the works. And so this was a thing within the fandom. And I just I hope that guy got a nickel. Like, come on. Because he was, to me, there is no better descriptor for my girl Ortegas than that. Because she's so much fun. But I'm so excited to dive into everybody being a chaos puppet in this episode, and really leaning into that. So
during that interview, did they talk about whether they were, or how much time they spent actually on set? Because obviously it's mostly the puppets as stand-ins for the actors, and I assumed normally they would ADR all of the dialogue, but were any of them actually there on set doing their lines live with the puppeteer? How did that work? Do you know?
That was not a question that got asked in these roundtable interviews that I got to do, because we were talking broadly about the season that we have seen thus far.
Not about this specific episode.
Yeah, but not specifically about this episode. So, but everybody agreed that Carol Kane's puppet was the best one. Because
that's in my notes. That is in my notes.
Yep. So it's a chaos Muppet or an order Muppet, and T'Pring would be our order puppet for this episode, and everybody else is a chaos puppet.
So,
right.
So in the terms of Muppets, then, does that mean that characters like Kermit are order Muppets, and
Yes.
Fozzie and Animal would be chaos Muppets and that sort of thing? Or would Fozzie be more of an order one?
I think Fozzie's maybe a little more chaos, but Fozzie, I think, could go either way, but definitely like Gonzo, Animal, absolutely chaos.
Yeah, there are some that are undeniably chaotic. Kermit and his production manager just trying to keep the show on track.
Scooter.
And everything else is sort of in between. Yeah.
Yeah. Miss Piggy's definitely chaotic then.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So since we're talking about Muppets, Henson, why don't you guys just tell me a little bit about your history with Muppets, with Henson Creations? Like I know that we were eager to talk about this specific episode because we are fans, but just give me a little bit of your background with them.
Go ahead, Geoff.
I've always loved the Muppets. I will say this. Apparently, when I was very little, when the Muppet Show came on, I used to hide behind the sofa when during the opening credits, because the big Muppets, the guys in suits,
I wondered if that was what it was.
Apparently scared me as a kid. So there we go. There's my confession about that. They didn't bother me in the show. They didn't bother me in the movies. But for some reason, it was that opening sequence where they run out towards the camera. Well, they sort of dance out towards the camera. But over here in the UK, we've had a lot of shows which are puppet related, not just Muppets. We've had the Jerry Anderson stuff as well. We've had what else? We've had a long history with things like Punch and Judy, which incidentally is incredibly outdated now.
Yes.
And if you go watch that now, just be very careful. There's some questions you'll have to answer. But yeah, I mean, Muppet Show, Fraggle Rock, what else has there been? Sesame Street. All this stuff has made their way over the ocean to us over the years, and it's always been a part of my life, to be honest. I'm looking forward to covering the Muppet movies on Three Circles when we get there, because there's going to be a few of those that we're going to do on that podcast as well.
My relationship with like Muppets and puppetry and things like that, obviously grew up loving Sesame Street, really loved Fraggle Rock back in the day. I also really was into the Muppets, and as a kid I grew up watching I grew up watching reruns of The Muppet Show, which is, looking at what I'm into now, this really just makes perfect sense for me, because I loved like watching The Muppet Show and learning about who all these old guest stars are that I barely knew anything about. And so my mom would be like, "Why are you watching this?" Because it's funny and I love the Muppets. Also, Muppet Babies. That was the other thing I was really into as a kid.
Yes.
That theme song, total bop. Can still sing the whole thing. But really like watching reruns of The Muppet Show and really getting into it. My parents, for whatever reason, were not super big Muppet fans. Now my in-laws, on the other hand, love the Muppets, and they will watch the Muppets anytime, anywhere. But my folks, not so much. So if I was watching it was my own choice, with the exception of the year I got the Muppet Christmas Carol for Christmas, and then I proceeded to watch that on repeat for like the next 2 years. Violating my rule now that I can't watch Christmas stuff until after Thanksgiving. But so really love the Muppets. Really identified with Gonzo because I am a Chaos Muppet myself. Also, I've always felt weird, and so when I watch Muppets in Space, I'm like, and Gonzo finds out he's not the only Gonzo. That's just like the best thing ever. So that's how I feel when I talk to my Star Trek people. So anyway,
Muppets Christmas Carol is sort of required viewing every Christmas over here. It's got to be watched. It's part of the tradition.
It's a perfect movie, and this. It adheres to the rule of, Michael Caine is like, I'm going to play this straight and like treat every Muppet like, they are a very serious actor, and it works so well. And then, you have the other end of that with Tim Curry on Muppet Treasure Island, where he's like, I too am a Muppet. And I think we have more of the former in this episode than the latter. So anyway, but yeah, that's kind of my history with Muppets. I've been a big fan since I was little, and I was excited to hear that we were going to get a puppet episode. And I know not everybody's wild about puppets, but I was excited to get this puppet episode. So anyway.
Yeah, I've always loved puppets. I've always loved the Muppets. They've been a part of my life since as long as I can remember. The Muppet Show was also on rerun in the living room. My parents were also wondering why I was as into it as I was. In my head, I think my whole family was more into the Muppets than they probably actually were. It probably was just me, and I'm projecting my love onto them because it's not like they watched it without me. You know, I definitely grew up on all the movies. Not so much a Fraggle Rock kid, but I was definitely a Muppet Babies addict, and like things like the Dark Crystal and just sort of the general Henson universe. Like I would absorb that stuff. Fell in love with Muppet Christmas Carol, as you mentioned, Ash. I mean, it is kind of required viewing around the holidays now. I watched that one and the Patrick Stewart one. Like those are my two.
Patrick Stewart one, incredibly underrated. That was a TNT TV movie back in the 90s.
It was, and he again just owns it. I thought it was a really good production. Yeah. And so I've always loved these guys. I too, like I said, I was probably in the minority of fandom that I think all three of us belong to, where we saw the preview for the puppet episode and we're like, fuck yeah, let's puppet it up.
Bring it on.
Let's pop it up.
Pop it up. Yeah. Real quick, I do want to give a quick shout out to the artist who created that OG Lieutenant Ortega's puppet. That would be artist Andrew Thomas. Fun fact, he actually does Star Trek comics as well. He did work on the Lower Decks series and he did a Canadian exclusive cover for Strange New Worlds, the Scorpius run. So pretty cool guy with lots of Trek love, and actually gets to color and or draw Star Trek comics, including Starfleet Academy. So I'm so behind on Star Trek comics. Anyway, there we go. Andrew Thomas. Cool. You can follow him on Instagram at @thefatmanwholetters.
Good shout. And no relation, I assume.
No relation, not to my knowledge. All of my Thomas is my married name. So, but all of my husband's family fits in on both sides. Fits in one room. So
cool.
Yeah. So no relation to my knowledge. But Thomas is our legion. So.
Well, we already talked about briefly the Carol Kane puppet. I thought I'm obsessed with the hair on the Carol. I have no idea how they do this. I hope that it's at the workshop because I plan on asking. I fell in love with that puppet. How did we all feel about the overall puppet concept execution? And was Pelia all of our favorite?
I think Pelia was really great, and mostly also because her puppeteer really nailed like Pelia's wackadoodle mannerisms and things like that. I really enjoyed that.
And the big eyes as well.
Yeah. I really loved the detail on all the puppets. I especially loved Mbenga and Uhura's hair. I just thought they did such a good job with the textured hair. I thought it was really good. And Mbenga's beard, like that beard on that puppet was baller. That was awesome. So good. And I even noticed, like, watching it this morning, because my girl Melissa got a really good head of hair. I know she keeps it short, but like, apparently if she lets her hair grow a little bit, it gets really curly. And they really got like the good texture for her hair. You can even see like a little bit of buzz, like what Melissa calls her super cool space haircut, where she does like the side shaves. So they even like had a little bit of buzz there. You could see just a tiny bit. The detail was immaculate. Now, I will say, when I watched this episode with my local Star Trek buddy, she came over the other night. We watched it together, and she just like hollered every time Pike's puppet was on screen. She just laughed. She's like, his hair, I can't. It's like 5 feet tall. Like,
yeah, I thought they executed the hair on all the puppets really well.
I think like if any of the puppets, I didn't feel like really totally captured their likeness. I kind of feel like Scotty's may have been the weakest, but I think it's maybe just the face shape is hard to get right with a puppet. because I don't know. I don't know. I felt like maybe that was the weakest one, but at the same time, I still don't think it was bad.
I'm not 100% sold on Una's puppet.
Yeah.
Or Chapel's for that. Chapel looked a bit odd, but I get what you're saying there with the quality of the puppets. Scotty's felt like it was a little too tall for me, but he gave off great Dr. Bunsen and Beaker vibes all at the same time.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that's a good shout there.
Yeah, they were able to pull off, I thought, the character designs pretty well. I'd agree. I thought Una's was probably the weakest one for me, and Chapel's didn't blow me away. But I thought overall it was a pretty great execution on the concept. I thought that the puppetry element specifically of the episode was not on my radar at all in terms of issues that I had with the episode. I think all of that stuff kind of fulfilled the promise that I felt and lived up to the expectations that I had. We got a lot more of them than I even thought we might. I didn't know, nobody knew until we finally got a chance to see the episode, whether it would be a brief gag, a part of the episode, or the majority of the episode, as it turned out to be. I was hopeful, I think we all were, that it wouldn't be all this work and they wouldn't be making a big deal out of it if it was just a brief moment or sequence in the episode. But I'm glad that they almost fully committed to the concept, and I think that the results largely speak for themselves on the puppetry side.
There is one puppet I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get, because at that start, when you see them all sort of start to disappear, the Enterprise vanishes. I was wondering for a moment, are we going to get a felt version of the Enterprise reappear? But we didn't get it, unfortunately. But yeah, that was the only thing I was a little bit disappointed. It's like, we could have had a puppet Enterprise as well.
Although, if we did have a puppet Enterprise, that would defeat the premise of the episode that nobody can do their job because their hands we have puppet hands. Although, if we had rigged it up like Pigs in Space, I would not have been upset about it. Or if somehow we could have had... we've seen Orion ships earlier in the series, so I guess they don't really look like the Pigs in Space rocket, but, that was like one of my favorite sequences on The Muppet Show as a kid, was Pigs in Space, so...
Pigs in Space, the rocket in that reminds me of Tom Paris's rocket as Captain Proton.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Hey, but yeah, no, I think that would have been fun too, Geoff. I agree.
Pigs in
Love it.
So let's talk about the one non-puppet character we get of the main crew, Spock. Spock is stuck, not puppeted, and essentially this is a Spock episode. As we learn, this entire episode took place in Spock's head. So all of this that we see apparently is Spock. So what do we feel about Spock's journey to this point in the season, and what do we think about his development through this episode and where he ends up?
Go ahead, Geoff.
Episode 5 of the series so far has been the Spock hijinks episode, isn't it? You get to this point and it seems to be there and thereabouts that we get this fun with Spock, and how are we going to screw around with Spock this time? And I've got to mention as well, I love the whole premise about the fact that T'Pring was only going to come back on ship if Spock promised that no hijinks would occur. And to be fair, he did everything he could, and suddenly, hijinks did incur.
He refuses to promise, and she actually gives him credit. He's like, well, your lack of a promise is very Vulcan.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you didn't commit to something you couldn't promise, so I'm not going to hold it against you.
But of course,
she will still be annoyed with him about it, but...
well, she won't, because none of this actually happened.
Yeah.
But I do like that he's getting these flashbacks from the Griffin as well. You get all the audio things, and I should say as well that I was a bit concerned coming on and talking about this because I hadn't seen the last 2 episodes. I'd only seen the first 2 and then this one. So of course the episode with the Griffin is still quite fresh in my memory as well. And boy, that was a hard episode to watch. Not because it was a bad episode; it was just scary. But yeah, he's suffering all of these flashbacks back to what happened, back with T'Pring, and it's putting these two together in his head. He's got somebody who tried to kill him, and now he's got somebody who's a puppet, all in recent weeks in his head. I wouldn't want to be Spock right about now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, if I have one big complaint about the episode is I wish it wasn't all a dream.
Yeah.
It is the fundamental and, in my opinion, fatal flaw of this episode. It is inescapable that it is the biggest problem when you do these "it was all a dream" episodes. They have to be executed so well, and it has to feel like the fact that it was a dream matters. It should be something that reveals something about the inner life of the character having the dream, and I just don't think it does. Just make it a puppet episode. You had last season, you had an entire episode where it was actually a musical episode, and that actually happened to the crew. Have them go through this weird shit. Commit to the bit. If you're going to make it a dream and undo, because then none of the scenes with potential character development with any characters that weren't Spock, none of that matters. None of that matters. We don't learn anything about any of these characters because they're all Spock. They're all dreams. They're all figments of his imagination. We can't learn anything about any character besides Spock, and they make the decision to knock him out for half the episode. So it was a really baffling choice for me, and that is one of the things that actually hurt it on rewatch. Is once I knew that everything I was watching was a dream and that none of it mattered, I stopped being invested in any of these character moments between characters because none of it mattered. And I think that is a big problem with what they chose to do with the narrative of this episode.
Yeah, what I think they could have done, and it would have just been a small thing. I mean, I totally get that, he would have woken up and T'Pring would have gone, well, what do you mean? I haven't changed. I haven't been a puppet. What do you want about? Because, for T'Pring, it may have been a case of, I refuse to believe that is something that happened to me. And all it could have taken was Spock walking through sickbay and just seeing a needle and thread still on one of the workstations. That's all it would have taken, just enough for him to go, oh, right, yeah, this did actually happen. We're just not going to talk about it forever.
Right. I like that solve, Geoff, that little character moment of T'Pring, just not even willing to acknowledge that hijinks happened because she's just so above them. And they have a moment where the puppet is sitting on the chair, and it seems like it's meant to have some weight to it, but it's not like a twist. It doesn't reveal anything like what you just suggested, that, oh, actually, this was real. It's just, here's a close-up of this creepy puppet. Remember the dream you just had. Remember the dream you just had, not the adventure you just had. And that's a big problem for me, just like narratively, with embracing this episode as one worth revisiting, other than for appreciating all the fun puppet stuff. And the episode needs to stand on its own for more than just its gimmick. And this episode chooses to be all gimmick and then doesn't quite cross the finish line. It just chooses to, at the last second, sort of snatch it back and say, none of that actually happened. Don't worry about it. I was excited for this episode. I didn't want to be bothered by it at the very end and on subsequent viewings. And instead, I think because it left a sour taste in my mouth on subsequent viewings, I also started to notice more little nitpicks on things that if the episode as a whole was working for me, it probably wouldn't have bothered me.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I do wish we could have made it real. Although, gotta tell you, it's kind of weird. Spock apparently is getting down with Puppet T'Pring at the end of the episode. Don't know how I feel about that one. But that part kind of makes me glad it was a dream. Otherwise, I'm gonna have some other questions.
Right.
But
right.
it's. it was still fun, and I'm so invested in the puppet scenario that I forget until the very end that, oh wait, yeah, this was a dream. Bummer.
Yeah.
So
and like I'm just gonna get into some of my like little nitpicks so that we can finish this on a positive note. I'm gonna get it all out now, and then we're gonna finish on a positive note. So my problems with the episode's plot itself begin pretty early on, because the Admiral tells Pike, after they've all revealed that they're puppets, that the nearest ship is 2 days away. What happened to this ship the experiment was beaming the puppet to? That ship was only 27,000 kilometers away. There are satellites that orbit Earth at farther distances. That ship should be visible from the Enterprise. And all of a sudden, after the accident takes place, there's no ships within 2 days. Like, you can't introduce information like that and then like 5 minutes later in the episode have a plot point rely on the audience completely forgetting what they just heard. That sort of stuff happens repeatedly in this episode.
My thought there, Ian, is that they are banking on Americans not knowing the metric system, because that never once occurred to me. Like 27,000 kilometers away, that sounds like a billion miles. It sounds like a bajillion miles.
It's not. Again. And it's not. And it's one of those things that it just like, it irked me, not at all like the first time, but then the second time through, I'm like, wait a minute, this already isn't making sense. Like, T'Pring enters the bridge at the beginning as a puppet, something that they make a big plot point about them not being able to do for the rest of the episode. Like, how did T'Pring get on the bridge? How did she open any doors? How did she operate the turbo lift? There's a big plot point about the fact that they can't do any of that as puppets. And it just feels like they adjust what the puppets can and can't do based on what they want the gag for the scene to be, or what they want the plot twist to be. And it just keeps feeling contrived. Like, it feels artificial. It doesn't feel like these plot developments or these character developments are emerging organically from the situation. It just feels like someone behind the scenes, the writers, are just fiddling with the dials a little bit on what these characters can do from scene to scene, depending on the needs of the plot. And after second and third viewing, those things that I didn't notice on first viewing, I couldn't help but notice. And it just kept coming up, like, where does the rest of the crew go? We see them all get transported, and then we never see or hear from them again. Not even a line of dialogue to say, oh, the Orions locked the rest of the crew up and blah, blah, blah. Anything. The whole ship should have been rushing the bridge. Where did they all go? We see them disappear, but none of them reappear. There's patients and other staff in sickbay, but they never reappear with Mbenga and Chapel. So, again, I know the reason is that it's budget, but like, the fact that they didn't think about this, the fact that they didn't take the effort to reward the audience's intelligence and address it, these sorts of things just became a bit more glaring on repeated viewings. Like, even Spock, like, why isn't the ship on red alert immediately once they detect the Orions? Why aren't the shields already up? Like, he's hovering by Uhura's station when she accidentally turns the view screen off. Why doesn't he turn it off immediately instead of having all the characters frozen? It's because they want to have the gag. It's because they want this funny moment. And I get it. They want it to be funny, but also, like, I just wish they were taking a little bit more care to remember that this is still a Star Trek episode, and we expect the characters to be operating at the top of their intelligence. And it feels like they're just dialing the intelligence up and down on characters depending on what they need the plot to be. Anyway, that's the end of my rant. Those are my nitpicks, and the whole dream sequence thing doesn't work for me. Let's finish this up on a positive note. I will address
all of your nitpicks with 2 words, Ian. Dream logic. Now we know it's all a dream.
I know, and that is a bug, not a feature. Yeah. That is a bug, not a feature. Like, I know. Hand waving away like all the stuff that doesn't make sense as well. It was a dream anyway. It's just, you're just being lazy as writers. Like, I can feel that as an audience member, that you don't respect my intelligence.
Again, none of that ever occurred to me. I'm just like, LOL, we have puppets.
Sure, and I honestly, I think that's largely like what they're counting on. They're counting on sort of like jangling keys in front of the audience and saying, look, we brought puppets. Don't you love puppets? And I do love puppets. How dare you use that against me?
How dare you weaponize these puppets? Like,
how dare you weaponize my love of puppetry and expect me to not notice these tears in the seams?
Well, if I may, since we're talking about weaponizing the puppets, this whole idea of them using puppet logic, like to get around this problem of invading Orions. Also, want to give a real quick shout to Rachel Harris, who was Captain Troll in this. I thought she was fantastic. And Joe Trujillo, I hope I said his name correctly, who I know best as Charles Boyle from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I never expected him to show up in my Star Trek, and I love him. I think he's hilarious. Yeah. And so watching him play in Orion was not on my bingo card at all. So that was just so much fun. I was not super familiar with Rachel's work, but apparently she was Melissa in The Hangover, which I have not seen.
She's also a regular in Lucifer and Suits, I believe. Yes. And
she pops out.
One of in the Diary of Wimpy Kid movies as well. Those were big things, I believe.
Cool. Yes. All things I have not seen. Apparently she was Deanna in Wreck-It Ralph, which I have seen. And that would be all of my familiarity with her. So, but I thought she was fantastic as this. She was so funny. And just this whole idea of, we've got an Orion pirate ship and, you're all puppets. We're definitely going to take advantage of this situation. I just thought that was really great. I enjoyed... all that being said, like watching everyone just flail as a puppet, like the minute the one big Orion dude like puts his hand on Ortegas's head and like just kind of holds her back while she's trying to take a swing at it, and was like, Melissa and I are the same height. We are not tall ladies. The number of times that has been done to me in my life, and I am not a puppet, like, is unreal. Like, I just, I feel the futility in all of their attempts at fighting. But the whole, like, hey, let's lean into this, because we're not thinking about this logically. We're thinking we need to think about this as puppets, like, because we're puppets, so we have to do things like puppets do. And so I'm like, I want to know how many, Muppet movies have they watched on the ship during like downtime? Like, on Enterprise, they were doing, Trip was doing screenings all the time of like Frankenstein and things like that.
Films from ancient Earth.
Films from ancient Earth. So obviously we're going to watch The Muppets Take Manhattan tonight. Let's lean into this. And it had never once occurred to me before watching this episode that, oh wait, no, there is something to this idea of puppets have a certain puppet logic and rules in which they operate, and that is why it works. Like, it never once occurred to me to even think about it like that until I watched this episode. So stuff like, okay, let's do crazy things like run up on the side of the wall and hurl our little puppet bodies at enemies much larger than us, and somehow that will work to take them down. Here, help me get this heavy thing off of me. Oh, here, I'll help you. And I get out from under it and try to lift it too. Like, it's that kind of logic. Like, oh wow, we're really leaning into that. I'm down. I really enjoyed that aspect of it because it never once occurred to me to think about puppets in that way. So
it kind of reminded me of when they did cartoon logic in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and that's how Bob Hoskins saves the day at the end of the day, because he's switching from what he knows to be real world logic to what happens in the cartoons, and as a result, he's on their side. Then he's got the tactics all sorted. And that's what this reminded me of.
That's a really great shout, and I can't believe I didn't think about that, because I fracking love Who Framed Roger Rabbit so much.
Me too. One of my favorites.
Mine too. Like, I watched it again last summer. I was like, I watched this movie nonstop as a kid. I now understand where all of my humor came from. Like this is totally my
Yep.
Yep. Bad jokes and let's make puns 24/7. Absolutely. I can't believe I didn't think of that. That's a really great shout, Geoff.
Yeah, I thought the way that they executed the puppet live action interactions was like really fun and seamless. Like the actual execution of the puppetry and like how all of that was envisioned, I thought that worked really well. I didn't know whether we'd see any like wires or sticks at all, or whether they would, puppet them in such a way that those were, not visible, or digitally remove them, or what. Seems like they decided to make them all completely invisible. So yeah, it looks seamless. They all look like, no, I've got no strings. There's no strings or sticks or hands, attached to me anywhere. It really did sell the illusion of these things being puppets. Now, again, do they dial the weight of the puppets depending on what they need them to do? Like, yes, one minute they can like be tossed like they're pillows, and the next they're heavy enough to weigh down an Orion's feet so that he trips. It does vary a bit. Mm-hmm. But again, like with the puppet action specifically, we are operating more on the cartoon logic or puppet logic. Like, again, I wish they hadn't made it a dream and just went with the weirdness of it, because it like the puppets acting like weird puppets and doing things that they shouldn't be able to do, like, that's fine. I'm used to them doing that. It's when characters act like they're dumber than I know them to be that I have a problem. I liked all the puppet choreography and that final bridge fight. I just wish there'd been more. I wish it had been the whole Enterprise crew rising up and flooding the bridge with felty madness. Like, make it really chaotic. Like, get them all in there. Have it be completely overwhelming. And again, I understand there's budgetary reasons why they couldn't do that, but that to me really would have fulfilled the promise of like, let's all unite and embrace the chaos and cause as much as we can, even though we each weigh like 2 pounds.
Ian, you've reminded me, this is not the first time we've had puppets in Strange New Worlds. If you guys will recall, in episode 109, All Those Who Wander, and in the opening of season 3, or in the end of season 2, the little baby Gorns are all puppets. All puppets. I'd forgotten that until just now.
I did too.
Yeah, they are all actual puppets and not animatronics. These are controlled by a puppeteer. So, folks, if you've never picked up the physical media for this, it's well worth watching those extras to see how they do this kind of stuff. So, and I was really impressed with the quality. So it shouldn't surprise me that we've got excellent puppeteers behind this particular episode. I would love to know who the puppeteers are. I did not catch that in the credits, so I'll have to go back and look. Because whoever did it, they done good.
Yeah, they definitely got a lot of the characteristics of the characters concerned. The one I think they had the most fun with, though, was the guy on the navigation station, who seemed to be a completely brand new character. He gets shot big style as well.
He gets to be the quintessential red shirt.
And keep on going as well. I'm just hoping he's okay after he got sewn up and put back together at the end. Well, of course he did, because it's a dream. But yeah, it was. I think he was one of my favorite characters in this, probably because we'd never seen him before, and he was, sorry to say, it reminded me more of a Muppet than the Jim Henson puppets that we've got, that the main characters are.
All right. What were some of our favorite moments?
We're too small and too fluffy.
We're too small and too fluffy.
That was so cute. And it's funny because I never think about puppets as being fluffy unless they're, like specifically a fluffy like dog puppet or something like that. But yeah, I guess puppets are kind of fluffy, huh?
Yeah. Reminded me that felted skin and full of stuffing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it reminded me of Smile Time from Angel, where Angel is turned into a puppet, and he goes, "I'm made of felt, and my nose comes off." That was that sort of line for this for me.
Yeah. I think anytime like bits of the self like pop off in puppet mode, I think that those gags always really work for me. And I love the conceit that like, yeah, you just stitch back together, you're fine. Like you don't need oxygen. Like again, the solution of turning off life support because none of them need oxygen, like that's the kind of shit the whole episode should have been. What can we only do as puppets and use our brains that are not made of stuffing to like figure out solutions that only we as puppets can use to solve this problem. More of that kind of problem solving would have gone a long way to improving this episode for me overall. I thought that was a perfectly logical solution, and again, like my investment in the solution does diminish once I know that none of it was real or mattered. But if they had just made this all real, like that would have been a really satisfying conclusion.
I will agree with that, Ian. I thought that was a really brilliant solution. Also, when they discover we don't need air to breathe, literally every puppet gasps. I thought that, like, I laughed out loud every single time I've watched the episode. Whenever that happens, I think that is hilarious.
That's a good gag.
I thought that was excellent. T'Pring getting mad and going, like, it was so good. I just want to give a quick shout out. I love Gia Sandhu. I'm so glad that she's been back this season. I really enjoy her portrayal of T'Pring, and it was so much fun to have her in puppet mode in this episode and get to see like a little different side of her. I thought that was really, really fun.
Yeah. What about you, Geoff? What stood out to you that you really liked?
Some of the brutality that we got in this as well. We got someone being sliced in two, and they're going, being really concerned for their well-being, saying, "Yeah, I'm fine. I've just been cut into two pieces. I'm okay." But it says, "I can't move. I'm okay. I just can't move." It was like, I've got no legs. But yeah, and the moment when they're doing the transporter experiment at the beginning, and Lan realizes she's still a puppet and her arm falls off, just out of nowhere. I really enjoyed. There's a lot of scenes here. I'm being very careful what I say at the moment.
Yeah.
Well, I loved the Pelia puppet. I loved any, like I said earlier, any moment of dismemberment of the puppets and the sort of the casualness of it. The realization that they can survive out in space, and they all have that moment, which again, like, I hate to keep harping on it. It's one of those things where Pelia like has this funny moment of like, how are we even hearing each other in space? Like, this doesn't make any sense at all. And I guess you could say, hey, that's a clue that it's a dream, but I wish they had just embraced the nonsense of it all, the chaos of it all a little bit more fully. I feel like they didn't quite have the courage of their convictions to do so. It's a little disappointing. But those moments with the crew all together, pumping it up like that, those are always my favorite moments of the episode.
I do wonder if this has an impact in Trek going forwards, because even though it didn't happen to Spock, it did, and he's seen effectively the crew or the ship get disabled by the fact that the crew cannot touch these controls anymore. I wonder if it's this that would then take us forward to Kirk's Enterprise, where everything's actually got push button switches, dials, knobs, and what have you, because they can do that. They can touch those.
Yeah, and also the ability to have more commands recognized by the computer verbally. Like,
Yes.
you can talk to the computer, but apparently in this era you can't quite yet like tell it to do anything you need it to do. So eventually we're going to get there in Trek, and we can sort of see why the drawback of this sort of touch-based system that they think is really fancy. We see this in technology, right? Like there's this fancy new tech, it's going to make your life so much easier. Fuck, it's got this drawback we didn't expect.
Yeah.
Tablets and mobile phones, I think the first time anybody used those with a glove on, and it's like, why is nothing happening? You cannot do anything. At the moment you put gloves on, the moment you keep yourself warm in the cold, and suddenly your touchscreen device is useless.
Well, and then you get these gloves. They're supposedly, phone friendly, and they don't work either. No. Bringing up like the accessibility stuff with Pike's chair and things like that. One, I love that idea, Geoff, of what you've mentioned about is this why we now have analog buttons and voice commands in original series? I think that headcanon accepted. I like it. Two,
push, click. Yeah, we like the tactility of.
I like a tactile analog button. There's something like a very satisfying like click sound. Yeah, no, I love it. I also, it's kind of a silly thing, and y'all are guys, so riddle me this. Pike going on and on about his new captain's chair and how it responds to him because I am the captain of the Enterprise. Like, I mean, is this like the sci-fi version of Chandler and Joey like kicking back in their Barker loungers on Friends? Because that's all I could think about when it was like, I'm just waiting for Pike to kick his feet up and go, oh, like that, I know that's how my dad reacted when he got a new recliner. Like, just it's the same way Pike's reacting about this captain's chair. I mean, does that apply to y'all?
Archer has a thing about his chair in Enterprise too. It's funny. I was sort of struck by how enamored he was with it, not because it became more comfortable, like that was Archer's issue, but because it had more functionality, which I feel like did he struggle with not being able to do what he wanted? Like, I don't feel like we saw him struggle with his old chair at all. I feel like this is a moment, like he's so into it, it needed to be a little more earned. Like, we needed to see an episode or two earlier this season where like he can't quite get comfortable or something, where like he needs to do something on this chair and he can't because he's like, I could do everything from this chair. And I was like, I kind of thought you could do that already. You're the captain.
I wonder if it's
I
more.
guess not.
I wonder if it's more a case that Pellier said, you could do this on your chair, but I can put this all in your chair and put it in place.
Right.
And suddenly he realizes it's the solution to a problem he's never had before. And it's like, ooh, typical man at this point. He's gone, ooh, shiny gadgets.
Right.
Yes, please.
The touch screen in your brand new car that has all these functions you never needed before, but all of a sudden feel like the most important thing in the world to have at your fingertips. That's what this is.
Nope. I mean, making the car comparison, bought a new car or new to me car 3 years ago, and this particular used Subaru came with like a bunch of the extras that I would not have sprung for, but I got a good deal on it, and they were already there. So stuff like seat warmers and the touch screen for the music and things like that. And I'm like, I'm going to have to like have all of this in my car going forward because I'm going to be a spoiled brat about this. So, especially with the seat warmers, I'm always cold. This is great.
I love a seat warmer. I would absolutely, buy a car based on whether or not it had one at this point. I would love if Pike's issue was like, oh yeah, she installed seat warmers. It's really
extra.
I kind of never want to leave.
Or a massage.
Lumbar support.
I was just going to say, there's a massager in the back.
Lumbar support, back massager in there. I mean, why not? Why not? But yeah, that was really all I could think about. I'm watching this. I'm like, man, Pike is he's Joey and Chandler in their Barker loungers in his captain's chair. So,
and I think too, like there's a little bit of an element. I don't know if it's exactly what he was going for, of just the the captains or the engineers in Star Trek who just like really like getting a feel for the ship, feeling like they have a direct connection to the ship and all its functions. And I think he feels like I'm for the first time feeling like I am in complete what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I feel like I'm working in complete cooperation with this incredible machine. Like, everything is at my fingertips. I feel this connection that I couldn't before. I think he's going for a bit of that as well. Any other notes about this week's episode you guys want to hit on?
If I may,
yeah.
Couple of just small things that I thought were really great. Cool. The whole joke about, I may not even be really me. I might be 3 puppets in a trench coat, and they literally did 3 puppets in a trench coat. Yeah. Laughed out loud. Perfection. Chef's kiss. The other thing that I really loved is like a one-off line, but when Spock is having the conversation with Joe Lo Truglio's character, he says, he asks, like, what, the women on your planet are not in charge? And he says, control is not determined by gender. It is efficient. And I'm like, oh, thank God for Spock. Like, let's make this reality, please, and thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, he also quite liked the thing about. I quite liked the thing when he said, "Oh, I like being told what to do," and Spock's response to him was, "Well, why are you second in command then?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't like it that much.
Well, I like that his justification is like, well, I have pretty good insight. Like, I can read people.
I have good people skills.
I have good people skills. Yeah.
Yeah. Fair, but still doesn't ultimately want to be the one in charge. So.
I do apologize. My next door neighbors have decided to jump in their outdoor pool, and there's
I was
just
wondering if there was like a bird of a particular variety outside your window.
I was wondering, like, are your guinea pigs screaming?
No, next door neighbors' children have just realized that there is a pool in their back garden.
Children, it's fine. It's summer. They can jump in a pool and scream.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go out and join them at some point. I don't care.
Right.
That sounds awesome. Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get out and enjoy the summer weather, is there anything else we want to touch on?
There was one other thing I had. Did you spot the Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan tribute? As
yes.
Pike is about to be spaced.
I feel like
I definitely did. That was very, very, very intentional.
Yes. I laughed out loud, but I think it's
clearly a gag. Like,
yes,
yeah.
It is clearly a gag. There are already going to be people cranky about this episode. Shout out to our co-host Craig, who was not a fan of this episode. But Craig, I feel Craig is not contributing to toxic fandom because he does not like this episode.
Craig has, I think, a lot of the objections that I do. He just also doesn't have the countervailing love of puppets.
Fair. But, those people who are contributing to toxic fandom are going to be super cranky about this episode anyway. And then, oh no, we make light of Wrath of Khan because that's Holy Writ or something. That, like, they're going to lose their marbles again.
How dare you?
How dare you? It's all a dream. Get over it. It's fine.
They're still not over them doing it in Star Trek Into Darkness, so,
Hey, people get cranky
movie
about that one too.
Sucks. So I get cranky about that one.
Sorry, sore subject.
I remember really liking it the first time I watched it, and then I have liked it less with each progressive watch, so I'm not going to watch it.
I remember watching it once in theaters and being like to my brother, hey, you want to go home and watch Wrath of Khan? You want to go watch a good Star Trek movie that deals with this?
Fair.
All right, so I think that wraps up our discussion for this week's episode. Is there anything else you guys want to plug or mention before we say goodbye?
Go ahead, Geoff. Tell us where the folks at home can connect with you.
Well, all of my social media links can be found at linktree/NCC17 Formula One, where you can find links there to my podcast, which are Make It So, a Star Trek Legacy podcast, Three Circles, a podcast on Disney movies, and 8-Bit Back Issues, which is a podcast about retro video games through the eyes of magazines. So there you go.
I've guested with you on all three of those.
Yes, you have. Hoping for Ashley to come on to Three Circles at some point when we
that would be lovely. Yeah, it's a great fit for you, Ash.
I do love my Disney. Not mad about it. Has anybody ever talked about Donald Duck and Math Magic Land? Because I have thoughts.
Not yet.
Okay, well, whenever y'all want to, maybe fit that one in, let me know. I'd be happy to talk about it.
Absolutely, we'll squeeze that one into the calendar.
Still have my VHS copy. Still watch it because I love it. It's so good. Can't look at a billiard table without hearing, Paul Frees' voice in my head. Ball low, and so it will spin backwards. And these are things I take with me into my adulthood. But yeah, thank you for being on the show with us today, Geoff.
Yes, thank you so much, Geoff. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be back as well. Thank you. Thank you both.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode. And remember, we are part of the Trek Geeks podcast network. Please subscribe to We Are Starfleet and give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you want to help us out, we'd love for you to connect with us on Blue Sky at starfleetpod.bluesky.social, plus Threads and Instagram at starfleetpod. You can also find all our links at wearestarfleetpod.com. Until next time, hit it.